Hi, and welcome to another Thanks Again Film podcast. This is episode 11, Star Wars. The original Star Wars episode 4. Instead of talking, I'm whispering because it's early. Instead of going back and repeating the essay, I thought I'd have some fun and do a process one. I could sit here and fan out on movies. Or some of these can be me trying to figure things out and learn. So I'm going to do that with Star Wars because I'm confused. I learned something really good with Star Wars. I feel like I learned the origin of Star Wars storytelling, but I don't want to share it yet. At the same time, I don't know what to say. I have no idea what Star Wars is about. Teachers use Star Wars to teach about storytelling and writing. And it's good. You can totally learn from Star Wars. It hugs the I almost said monomyth. It hugs what do you call it? Campbell. The chart. The Hero of a Thousand Faces. The hero's journey. It hugs the hero's journey. It's chart-like. It hugs it so close. But in that, what is that saying? What if I were to take a step back? Then I'm saying, what does the hero's journey mean? I know what it accomplishes. It sets someone out in life. The nature of storytelling, if you listen to Campbell, is designed to get the young folks set up in life. It's designed to set them out to do well. Life lessons. Stories are generally life lessons. They're cautionary tales. They're looking back. Be warned. That sort of thing. Hold on, I'll be back. I gotta get the laundry. Alright, I'm back. Well, when thinking about Star Wars, there's one thing. It had to do with Jack Kirby. But I'm gonna get to that in a second. Lately, when I've been trying to figure it out, what episode 4 is about, it's all wrapped around the hero's journey. And what I've heard about it is that it hugs it so closely that I'm blind to what is actually happening in the story. I'm just thinking about Campbell and whatnot. So, within the hero's journey, what is the actual meaning behind it? It's to give young people a push What does that mean? I ran into the same thing with Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3. When you're starting out in life, you know where my brain just went to? It went to Brian McDonald. In his book, Invisible Ink, he goes over something called ritual pain. And ritual pain is that the closest thing I can think of are Native Americans. They lived, I heard the Native Americans got it right. They were outside on the land and they did hunter-gatherer things. They're basically, that society was modern as any other. And they're out there on the fields, hanging out with each other all day. The same kind of thing happened in Africa. But when you look at Africa, I look at Africa and I think of Zulu. And they did community to their detriment, I think. Because that movie starts out with a group marriage. I mean, that's community to the point where it doesn't make sense anymore. Where you're having a marriage and you don't know who you're married. It's just everybody's gathered on the left, everybody's gathered on the right. Stand in line and be grateful. We'll match you with someone. That's underclass. that is king and peasant stuff. But the Native American civilization, for my learning of it, seemed pretty good. They had peace pipes, tents, bows and arrows. They were hunting buffalo, gathering in the forest. What's not to like? But the idea was, at some point around the age of teenager, it was time to get a job or join the community and help out in some way and keep the tribe going. So you had to learn to hunt, fish. You had to learn what was poisonous and what wasn't. Those little tribes, they brought the little kids out to help with the gathering. The one thing that I remember about, I don't want to say Indian, but rainforest type tribal is when you're younger, you have your taste buds work better. You comprehend what's sweet. When you get older, your taste buds start to die out. And what those tribal people would do was they'd bring their young kids along sometimes on those gathering missions, and they'd have them taste the berries. I don't think that there's very little fruits and berries that they find in the forest. If it's sweet, it's safe. That's why little kids like sugar. If the kid tried it out and it tasted not as sweet, like bitter or something, it was likely poisonous. And the kid died, and everyone was grateful. And that's how things were. Now, with Campbell, he was talking about how it's necessary for cultures to have stories that teach. So, if you're going to teach, who do you teach? You teach the people who are willing to learn. And those lessons are the lessons of life. He changed as he got older. And had different views on women for the longest time. There was the Hero with 1,000 Faces, the hero's journey. And then there was a separate one called the Women's Hero's Journey, which is for women. They have to deal with their mom. It's them about getting away from the grasp of their mom's influence and becoming a mother. For men, it was largely about walking out into the forest and not dying and being able to come back home and it with praise. If you look at the chart, that's all the hero's journey is ritual pain. It's someone leaving their mentor, an older person, heading out into the wilderness, finding obstacles, tricksters, trouble, getting past it, and finding the elixir, something of value to bring back to the community. And on that journey, hopefully they get to whap something inside the head. Hopefully the hero returns with the story that says, oh, it was so challenging, but I have it, everyone. Now we can eat. And that's basically what it is. Every story that follows adventure or the hero's journey is the basics in life. People trying to survive. It makes me think when George Lucas was writing Star Wars, the original one, and he was hanging out with Joseph Campbell. Those conversations must have been really neat. I mean, that story, he made it. My computer's blowing up. Hold on a second. I kind of forgot where I just was. What does it mean to if the story is about starting out in life? Excuse me, pardon me. If the story is about starting out in life, what is it? What does that mean? If that hero's journey's chart is about ritual pain of a ritual pain is the ritual of sending someone out into the forest. It's like what do they call it? The bat mitzvah. It's kind of like that, where they're sent out to experience how to help. And it's dangerous. It's someone putting a weapon in your hand and saying, okay, your turn to go get dinner. And then they have to march out there, be quiet, sneak around, find something, and then stab it to death. And it might fight back. Or shoot it with an arrow and then watch it bleed to death. Or wound something, have to track it down and listen to it die slowly, cry and whatnot. It's a horror show. There's pain involved. And in movies, you change the subject. And it becomes adventure. But somebody's getting beat up. Or they're experiencing something they don't want to. What does that mean? Life is well, at the end of Star Wars, everybody's clapping. So it has to do something with the community. Bringing something back isn't just for your dinner. The hero's journey likely has to deal with supporting the community. So it's saying something like, you too can help the community. You can be useful. Usefulness is a value to the community. Be useful to the community. That might be it. Be useful to the community. And stories vary, and people decide how entertaining that was. How good of a message that was delivered, or life experience, or I needed to see that. I did not need to see that. I've only walked out of one movie. No, 2 movies. 3. I was asked to leave at 1. It wasn't my fault. My brother and his friend. My sister took us, all 3 of us out, to go watch Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the Steve Martin movie. And they couldn't help themselves. They were trying to act up like Steve Martin in the movie and cracking jokes along with everyone. And they were just, although they were quiet, it was enough. She canceled it and said, "Let's go. You're disturbing everyone, probably." The other movie was, I forgot the name of it. It was a kid's movie. It was time to go. I wasn't enjoying it. But The Crow 2 bothered me. I got upset when watching The Crow 2. Because I enjoyed the first one so much. In high school, Stone Temple Pilots was my favorite band. And you turn the TV on, you see that commercial where you hear "Time to Take Her Home." And it's that car exploding off the bridge. They ran a car off of a pier. I mean, The Crow 1 is a great movie. It's a good action movie. And then part 2 rolls around, and I noticeably saw that they were getting the journey wrong of what that story was supposed to be. Where this guy is getting, well, it's dark. I don't want to get into it. But this man's family suffered an attack. He dies too. But a crow comes along and says, "I'll let you live for a little while longer, and then you can get revenge on them, and then you'll be happier." So the guy comes back to life, and he's sitting there. He's laying down on some pillows on the floor in his living room. And he's talking to the crow. And he's whispering, and he's saying, "Should I go get revenge?" And it bothered me. Now, if you're a kind person, the answer is no, don't do that. Don't go hurt folks. But the movie is called The Crow. It's about a guy who gets up to go hurt some folks because they hurt him. And it's about bad guys saying, oh no, I should have done better. And peace returns to the land because they're terrorizing everyone. It's someone who's terrorizing everyone has a supernatural crow show up to make someone invincible so they can stop hurting everybody. That's what the premise is. And the crow lands on this guy and he's wallowing around on the floor talking about maybe I should just go back to sleep. And it bugged me for the entire movie. And the part that I walked out on was there's near the end of it. It lacked a bit of self-awareness where they had a black man hanging the hero in the streets doing a public hanging. And it just read as tone deaf, and I got up and walked out. But the original movie is great. People try. Art's difficult. Art is difficult. What was I saying about you can be useful to the community? Might be what Star Wars is about. Because Luke looks over that sunset and he's longing. It might be what resonates with people so much. Because it dials into the basis of what are you going to do with your life? Absolutely nothing. I don't know. But, oh, 1 second. I think that message fits. Once you start the one of I could be of value to my community. Simply because they get medals at the end. And if you look at the characters, I was saying before, sometimes in storytelling, you can find out exactly what the story is trying to tell you in the first scene or two. I think they call it a hook or something, of where the main character will establish what the problem is, or someone will tell them what's wrong with them. It happens in E.T., where, but that, surprisingly, that scene doesn't happen for a little bit. If you watch E.T. In E.T., there's a scene where the boys, the family, that, you know what? Come to think of it, that scene looks amazing. That's one of those 80s scenes that'll drag you right back. There's a scene in E.T. where they have pizza for dinner. And this rowdy little family, because it's a bunch of boys running around, and their little sister, and they all have to sit down to dinner. And his brother gets mad at him. The older brother gets mad at the little brother. I think he dropped the pizza or something. And he yells at him and he says, "You know what your problem is? You don't care about others." He says something like that. And then he runs outside, and it's the shed scene where he's throwing a little baseball to E.T. And in Star Wars, it starts out with Princess Leia saying, "Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." It's a help message. So right from the start, someone needs help. But who's the problem? Darth Vader's the problem. She asked for help. I'm thinking about it. It's less of a community. It's someone directly asking for help. But that's the princess of a planet. That basically is a community asking for help. They help a community. They help every community in Star Wars. Um, Something else is really interesting. Jack Kirby. I noticed years ago, two of my favorite Jack Kirby characters are Big Barda and Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle is a character who's an escape artist. His superpower is that he can escape any danger. And he's a bit like Batman. It's not some sort of hocus pocus. His costume literally has gears and things to help him be an escape artist. It's technology based, partially. And Big Barda leads the army of Apocalypse. The character of Darkseid, he picked Barda and the Furies to watch over his army. She leads her own little gang, and that gang marches everyone into war. And with those two, it's a love story where it's love at first sight. Mr. Miracle, she burst through the wall to arrest him. and it turns out to be love at first sight. So they're in one of those scenes. I hope they get that right in the movie one day. It's one of those scenes where the bad guy is acting like the Superman, like the hero, who's like, "I'm gonna get you, villain." But it's the villain bursting through the wall. And then it's one of those moments where they stare at each other. And it's one of those movies like Shop Around the Corner. And it's an instant romance where she shows up to basically destroy the man. "I finally found you, Mr. Miracle. You're so elusive. I've caught the problem." It's so heartwarming. And then they're dreamy eyed after that. And the story turns into they run for their lives to escape apocalypse. And they open up a mother box portal and they head into suburbia to live happily ever after. Star Wars fans might be laughing, but here's what I noticed is that in that story, that's not what happens. It's so fun. Barda and Mr. Miracle open up the portal again, and they say, "We'll never find peace ever unless we go make it clear, do not follow us." So it's this campy action adventure moment of where they're chased and then they say, "Hey, wait a minute," and they turn around and the two most dangerous people in the apocalypse just beat the hell out of everyone. They're swatting down guard towers with one punch. And then they clap their hands and they march off into their happily ever after. And I noticed that part of what makes Star Wars so exciting is it has that same kind of moment of the team marches into the Death Star and then they run for their lives. And then they have a meeting and they they gather forces and they march right back to the Death Star to teach them a lesson. And it's so much fun. I'm trying to think. I keep hitting the pause button. I'm trying to think what else could it possibly be trying to say? If Star Wars hugs the hero's journey so closely, I'm not even really going through the film. The hero sets out, they're met with challenges, and they bring back the elixir. What could it possibly be saying? Ta-da! It's if there's turmoil in the beginning and there's peace returning to the land at the end, but then there's that longing. There there's a moment in Star Wars where he's longing to help out, to leave the farm. I took another short break. I thought about Star Wars a bunch. For the life of me, I can't figure out what else it might be saying. I was thinking about different roles in that movie. At some point, it seems like every character might be going through some kind of hero journey. Uh, Luke is the main one. But old Ben, he's the one that gets called on. Old Ben is the hero that gets called on to go through the motions. And he has to get help. And he doesn't make it at the end. But he does. Old Ben Kenobi goes exactly where he wants to go. He goes exactly where he wants to go. And if the story is about, can I possibly be of use to my community, he goes where he's the most used to his community. Because I've seen the prequel. Look at episode 3. Take a look at Big Kenobi in episode 3, and then head on over to episode 4. He went to where he's the most used. A lot of beard scratching. Han has one of those stories. He saves the day. He saves the day just as much as Luke. There's those two who get medals. And the princess, She's the one handing them out. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I've got for Star Wars. I think it fits. There's more. There's uh there's stuff that I thought of. I've been thinking about Star Wars for years. And I think I figured out what kind of story it is. I don't want to say. But Star Wars is a favorite. There's a reason why it's probably the biggest fandom. It helps. It helps people. It's inspirational. Uh, Thank you for listening. Be well, everyone. I mean to sound happy.